Hi, I'm Alan Edwards from Alpus Group, which was founded in Slovenia in 2015, and we operate throughout the EU and the UK as well as beyond those borders. And we provide property owners with the ability to optimize the value of their property assets, and we provide property investors with the best returns on investment. So why should you listen to me? Well, I've been involved in construction and property development all my life, and I've got a lot of experience of the project management of property developments from the point of view of the contractor, consultants, and also clients over more than 40 years. I've worked on projects from the largest to the smallest, largest being $1.5 billion. And in all sorts of categories. So that's residential, commercial, hotels, retail, infrastructure projects, roads and railways, and even port reclamations. So I've written a book about my experience, which is called Project Deliverance, the 20 Key Factors for Project Success or Failure, and it's available on Amazon. And I'm going to explain to you about these 20 key factors so that you can learn from the mistakes made by others and you don't have to make the same mistakes yourself. So here we go then. For the first primary object is to have a concise remit for the project so that you scope up the project exactly and you define its purpose. If there are operational aspects, requirements, you need to make these part of a functional specification. So that's step one, is to define what the project is, whether it's a residential project, if so, how many units, what type of units, what market you're going for, whether it's retirement or first-time buyers or whether you're going for the executive market. This needs to be part of your project scope or remit. The second aspect is to ensure that you've done a thorough risk assessment on the project and taken into account all the risks and turned that into a contingency sum for money and also for time, because sometimes risks are weighing on the budget and also on the program, and the program costs money. So essentially you need to make sure that whatever you're doing for your project remit is covered in terms of risk and contingency. Thirdly, having established the likely budget, including a contingency, you need to make sure that you have adequate funding and finance in place to complete the works. The last thing you want to be doing is to be trying to find extra funding when you're part the way through the project and you haven't actually completed the delivery of the scope of works. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. You're better off over-providing on the funding than under-providing. So fourthly, you need to ensure that you have statutory permissions for the site that you're developing. So what this usually boils down to in the UK is that you have the right planning permission, or if you don't need planning permission, the right permitted development, or that the use class that you're developing is the right one for your end purpose. So if you're refurbishing a project in C3 category residential, then you don't need a change of use, but you can increase the value. Also, apart from the planning permission, you need building control office permission. So this comes down to the working drawings and the specifications for the project, and these need to be all approved before you actually deliver the project. Fifthly, site and site access. So you need to own the site usually before you carry out any value improvements. There are some exceptions to this, and we can explain about those where we can exchange contracts and then add value and then complete a project to enhance the value for a property owner. But usually before starting work, you need to own the asset, because it's pointless to improve an asset that's owned by somebody else. Your investment is at risk. And not only owning the site and having access to it, but you need to ensure that tenants who may have a right under a lease to be there need to be removed from the property before you start work, or if there is a provision for a partial access to the site, that the tenant has an agreed date to vacate the site. So this is your responsibility as the project sponsor. You need to make sure that the site is available to the contractor before you appoint the contractor. You'd be surprised how many jobs this goes wrong on as well. So sixthly, services and utilities are often an issue. You need to notify the services utility companies about your intentions for the site, and you need to make provisions for the temporary services during the time of the development and also the end use. And before that, you may need to cut off existing services or indeed divert some services. So there's also another category, which is protection of services. So there is a lot of attention needs to be paid to protection. And under this category, probably you would put, if you're working adjacent to tube lines or railway lines, you'll have special protection measures that need to be taken before you can carry out works adjacent to a railway or another live infrastructure. So you need to get method statements submitted and designs submitted to that authority, Network Rail in the case of the railways, or tube lines, TfL in the case of the underground services. And all the method of carrying out the works that are adjacent to the railway needs to be pre-agreed. So there's a lot of permission required, and this may have design implications which you need to work through before you get your contractor on board, unless you appoint a contractor early and involve him in the design works. But services and utilities need special attention in terms of notifications, diversions, protection, and that's for temporary services as well as the permanent services for your final product, whatever you're developing. As point 7, this services work may involve some long lead items. And I'll give you an example here. If you've got a national grid mast on your site and it may need to be diverted, sometimes these sort of major diversions can take up to 2 years to organise. And similarly, if you need to carry out works on railway land, it may need to be carried out under possession, which can mean more than a year in advance for organisation. So you need to think very long term in terms of services and adjacent infrastructure. If you have demolition that needs to be carried out, this can be carried out as an advanced works package. So these sort of services diversions, the major services diversions, and the demolition can be carried out as advanced works while you're developing the design for the project. Point 8, health and safety. You, as the site owner, are responsible for the health and safety on your site. So this is a legal obligation. It's not something which you can pass off to somebody else. You can delegate some responsibilities, but you, as the legal owner, need to carry out work under the Health and Safety at Work Act regulations, 1974. You need to conform with the RIDOR regulations for reporting of accidents and incidents. And you also need to appoint a CDM coordinator. So that's the Construction Design and Management regulations, which are obligatory. These are things that you must appoint a CDM coordinator for and appoint people to carry out the responsible roles. So you can appoint a contractor and delegate some of the responsibilities to him, but until you have a contractor on board, you need to make sure that these aspects of health and safety, which are mandatory, and if you don't conform and there is an incident or an accident on site, then you, as the site owner, are legally responsible. So point 9 is the contract strategy. How are you going to actually carry out the works that you plan to fulfill for your development? And there are a number of options here. You can carry out the traditional process, which is that the client appoints the design team to carry out the design works associated with the project, and then tenders the design works for implementation by a main contractor who has either no or very limited design responsibility. Alternatively, you can carry out a design and build contract where you as the owner only carry out the preliminary design and you define your requirements as part of an employer's requirements document which sets out your functional requirements from the project. You then tender to suitably qualified design and build contractors, and they will give you an offer in terms of their contractors' proposals to fulfill your employer's requirements. Now, sometimes the contractors' proposals don't exactly match the employer's requirements, so there's an element of negotiation required to see whether there's a fit between what the employer requires from the design and build contractor and what he's actually offered. So there's usually a longer period for tendering and a longer period for negotiation before contractor appointment with these sort of design and build contracts. But the good thing about design and build contracts is that all of the design responsibility, that is the detailed design and the building control office approvals, are under the contractor's responsibility as opposed to under the traditional system where the client's design team would procure those approvals. So there are two different ways there, and then there's a third normal way, which is that you could appoint a construction manager to fulfill the scope of works that you want to carry out. And this construction manager would manage the designers and the contractors on behalf of the client. So they're a third party, and there is no main contractor in this arrangement. So the construction manager manages trade contractors who may have some design responsibility, and also design contractors as well, the designers for the project. But essentially it's a third option, and you can sometimes achieve some economies from this option, but there are some drawbacks as well. So really you need to appraise which is the most appropriate for the type of project that you want to deliver. Point 10, we've talked about design in a preliminary way, but essentially before you deliver the project, you need to ensure that you have a complete design which is buildable. So who is going to actually carry that out? This is the key to the point we talked about previously. Will it be the client's design team, or will it be the contractor under a design and build contract, or will it be a number of parties under the construction management arrangement? So you need to decide who is responsible for completing the design and ensuring that it is buildable. This brings us on to point 11, which is a BIM strategy. So what we're talking about here is building information management system, and essentially you as the client need to define this for the designers who are going to work on your project. So it's a very important aspect, because depending on the BIM strategy that you define to start off with, it will depend on the information that you will get out at the end as a client for your further use during operation of the building or whatever facility you're developing. Point 12 is quality control. So this is a responsibility during the design phase and also during the construction phase. And under the different contractual arrangements, you would have different responsibilities. Under the traditional arrangement, design quality control is the responsibility of the designers, and they're covered by their professional indemnity insurance. And under the design and build arrangement, the quality control is covered by the design and build contractor. So essentially, the design and build arrangement provides a 1 point of responsibility, but you need to decide who is responsible for the quality control on the project. And you also need to ensure that when you come to appointing contractors, that they are suitably qualified to carry out the safety and also the quality control responsibilities that we've just talked about. So getting more onto the implementation brings us to point 13, which is progress reporting. And this is essential in terms of keeping to schedule, the time schedule from the contractor, and also in terms of keeping to the budget. So you need to have concise progress reporting from your professionals, your quantity surveyor usually, and your project manager or whoever is managing the project. And you also need such reports from the contractor if you're appointing a main contractor. Point 14 is progress meetings, because having got the progress reports, you need to actually read them, analyse them, and make sure that everything is going to plan. And you need to challenge the responsible parties if things are not going to plan. So in terms of contractor's responsibility, your project manager or project administrator would challenge the contractor about progress that he's making, or if there are delays on procurement of materials, he will challenge the contractor about what the contractor is doing to ensure that these delays are overcome and that the project gets back on track. Similarly, if there are budget overruns, the project manager or project administrator will challenge the responsible party to ensure that either designs are revised to get things back under the right budgetary control, or that materials are changed if it's necessary because of extended delays. So you need to actively review what is going on with the project. It's an evolving process, and it involves people working together and coordinating a lot of complex information. What I mean by this is point 15, subcontractors. You will probably employ on your project a lot of specialist subcontractors. These could be piling contractors, they could be steel frame contractors, they could be cladding contractors, they could be mechanical electrical contractors, they could be suspended ceiling contractors, lighting contractors. All sorts of specialists are involved in modern complex projects. And so you need to ensure that these designs that are produced by what are essentially specialist subcontractors are addressed and coordinated within the overall designs that are going to be approved for implementation. So it's quite a complex process. You've got iterations between subcontractors who are preparing detailed designs for implementation and consultants who are overseeing that design, or the main contractor under a design and build arrangement who is overseeing that design. So all of this needs to be covered in point 16, which is the contract conditions, which is that the responsibilities need to be set out in the contract. You've established that you want perhaps a design and build contract, so you need to ensure that all of the contract conditions for budgetary control and also for design coordination are covered within the contract that you set up. The last thing you want is for a project to be delivered that doesn't have the right responsibilities allocated, and so there are loopholes in there which the contractor may be able to evade his responsibility. So it's all part of defining the project and controlling the project. Point 17 is designs. No matter who designs are carried out by, they will usually involve collateral warranties. So what I mean by this is that if you've got a specialist contractor, such as a lift contractor or a cladding contractor, they will provide a warranty perhaps to the main contractor, but you want a collateral warranty because you want to ensure that you as the client are covered by that warranty. So you need to ensure that you have assignable guarantees and that the client, the end user of the asset, gets the guarantees assigned, and also that there are collateral warranties. So this is a very important point. Point 18 is collaboration between the parties. Projects these days are more and more complex, and you need to ensure that within each party's contract they are obliged to collaborate. So this applies to designers and to contractors and to subcontractors. It's absolutely essential, because you don't want specialists refusing to collaborate with others. You need to set all this up in the contracts so that you have the necessary collaboration defined within all the contracts and subcontracts and within the structure that you envisage. And you need, more than anything, to appoint contractors and subcontractors who are known for their collaborative approach. You don't want to appoint contractors who are prone to making claims. So this is all part of the pre-qualification process, so that you ensure that you appoint the right contractors, the right specialist subcontractors. You may, as point 19, have an interface issue. So it may be that you have an interface with other adjacent projects for which there are critical key resources or critical key times in the program when you have to manage the interfaces between your project and the adjacent project. Ensuring that there is proper communication is part of the key to a successful project. So this is another essential factor. And then point 20, the final factor, is decision making is essential. So you need to have a culture of problem solving, because usually projects, no matter how well you try to define them, there are things that will go wrong. Things will not happen as you envisage them. And so you need to have a culture of decision making. So these are the 20 key factors for project success. And if you read my book, which is available on Amazon, you'll see some examples of projects that have gone very well, and you'll see some examples of projects that have failed. So I don't want that you make the same mistakes that others have made. And so I'm inviting you to speak to me if you have a project that needs arranging. That's Alan at Alpus Group. And my telephone number is 07539 141257. If you're calling from outside the UK, that's +44 7539 141257. Or you can call on 0333 224 1257. From outside the UK, it's +44 333 224 1257. You can schedule a call with me at calendly.com/AlanJE, or you can just drop me an email at alan@alpusgroup.com. So if you have any sort of project that you would like to deliver and you'd like to talk with us without any obligation about how to set it up, then we'll look forward to hearing from you. Cheers for now.